Okay. I now call the regularly scheduled meeting of the Natrona County Board of County Commissioners for Tuesday, April 20th, 2021 to order. Madam Clerk, may we have roll call?
Commissioner Hendry.
Here.
Commissioner Kaufman. Commissioner Milne.
Here.
Commissioner North. Chairman Bertolio.
Here. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve the consent agenda for today.
And I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any items on the agenda that you would ask to be removed
Removed?
for discussion?
For discussion.
Yeah, I'd go ahead and ask for Resolution 2021 for discussion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Do you need, yes, I'll second that.
Okay. It's been moved to remove item A, the Resolution 2020, from the consent agenda for additional discussion. There is no further discussion. All those in favor of approving taking item A off, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll go back right now to the consent agenda. If there is any other discussion or comments on the remaining consent items, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll go back to item A now. It's been, your chair to entertain a motion to approve Resolution 20-21.
I'd move to approve Resolution 20-21.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 20-21. Commissioner Milne,
Do you want to read Mr. North or Commissioner North's?
I'll go ahead after you.
Oh,
Okay.
thanks.
Should we tee this up a little bit for the audience? The resolution is in regards to declaring the Natrona County Second Amendment Preservation Act.
Right. So basically, what we're doing is an affirmation of our support for the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and most particularly specifically for this, the Second Amendment. Other counties in Wyoming have already done this. Other counties, states, municipalities have done this. I was planning on talking to you all about this at an earlier point, but a lot of people right after the Fremont County passed their resolution on support of the Second Amendment, a lot of people called me and were asking for this to be done also here in Natrona County. So I reached out to Fremont County, and with Eric here, and we changed the resolution to meet Natrona County's needs, wording, and pretty much that's what we came up with is the Preservation Act. Initially, a lot of these, well, they use wording like sanctuary and whatnot, and I really had a problem with sanctuary being used in the Preservation Act, and it primarily comes from the use that it was kicked around during the illegal alien debacle there. Cities, states, whoever was saying, no, we're illegal alien. Well, they didn't use that term, but they're sanctuary. And it's a little different different resolution. I think we're actually saying that we're in support of the Second Amendment, and this is the Constitution, and this is our country that we're supporting. We're not looking at changing it or supporting illegal activity. This is actually, it's the Bill of Rights. It's part of the Constitution. Recently, somebody I think a lot of the calls that I received were due to the current administration's saber rattling or the House of Representatives, U.S. House of Representatives legislation that they've been trying to pass. And certain comments coming from the administration, such as no amendment in the Constitution is absolute. Okay, really? Just basically in their words at that point, they're saying that there's no right that you have that they can't violate. That's all they're saying. So basically this is just saying, hey, no, we do support the Constitution here in Natrona County, and just want to reaffirm it. I'd hope that other counties, municipalities, and states out there that haven't done so eventually do pass something like this. It's the only way we're going to get any push from the pushback, is it, if everybody does it. That's basically it.
Hey, thank you. Commissioner Henry, any comments?
Oh, the only comment that I would make is that I'm going to vote for it. I just wish that in the United States of America, we didn't have to do this. That we have the rights that under the Constitution, and I just wish that we didn't have to pass these kind of resolutions, but I'm fine with it.
All right, thank you. Commissioner North is unable to be with us tonight, but he did ask that I read a statement that he prepared, and it goes as forth. I regret not being able to be present for the vote on the Second Amendment Preservation Act. I want to express my total support for the preservation of the right to bear arms and that it should not be infringed on. The Second Amendment location in the Bill of Rights is because of its importance to the Founding Fathers. Throughout history, it has been repeatedly shown that unarmed citizens have resulted in tyranny by the ruling government. After the recent acts of the current leadership in Washington, it is very apparent that the Second Amendment needs to be preserved to protect our freedoms. Second Amendment preservation ordinances, resolutions, and laws are not new. It is not immediately clear where the current stand to preserve our rights started over the last few years. Virginia, Missouri, Arizona, New Mexico, and several other states and counties across the country have already passed support of the Second Amendment. I strongly support this resolution and am pleased that each of the commissioners that currently sit on the Board of County Commissioners in Natrona County, along with the Sheriff of Natrona County, has signed on in support of this resolution. It is great to live in Wyoming and Natrona County, where we stand for the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. Sincerely, Dave North, Natrona County Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, one thing I would add is kind of ironic to this, but Commissioner North is in Kodiak Island, Alaska, hunting bear with a big gun. I hope it's big enough.
You'll find out.
You'll find out.
All right, any further comments? All right, there being none, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we have no public hearings tonight,
Yeah, right. That's
so we'll move on to public comments. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the commission, if you'd please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Shannon Monday. My address is 4830 Antelope Drive in Bar None. I'm here tonight to ask when you're talking to us about.
Sure, and there should be a little green button, light.
Right in the
come-
middle.
Yeah. It's probably dead.
Oh, man.
I don't need it. I'm pretty loud.
Just so they can hear you in the back, too. It's right over here, Michelle. Oh, there it went.
Thank you.
Great.
I am actually here this evening because I have a safety concern for my children. If you'll indulge me, I'd like to kind of share with you a little bit of a story first. The week of February 12th through the 15th, it was a weekend. Casper was experiencing a severe cold snap. I'm sure you guys all remember the below zero weather. I went out of town because it was a weekend, long weekend for the school, took my kids to Colorado. When I left, I turned up the heat in my home, and I left all the faucets dripping in my home. When we got back on Monday the 15th, my children and I went into our home and discovered that we had no water. I live in Bar None. That brought a concern, looked throughout my home, no issues, nothing leaking. So I called Wardwell Water, and what I was told was that it was I'm sorry, let me find out I don't want to misquote. I was told it was a holiday, so their answering service was once answered, and they stated they would get a hold of the technician. I left my phone number and explained that I had small children, I have 7-year-old twins, and that we needed water. The answering service stated that they would pass the message on and that the technician had received a number of calls, so they knew they were out working on water issues. I was patient, so I took my kids to the hangar, I'm sure you guys know where that's at, in Bar 9, and let them play, use the restroom, drink water. This was about 1 p.m. in the afternoon. I called back at 4, heard nothing, not even the answering service answered. So I said, okay, we'll hang out a couple more hours, maybe they're at our house. At 6 p.m., it was getting close to bedtime, so I took my kids home, hoping that the technician had just forgotten to call me. I got home and discovered that I still had no water. My children were unable to get water out of our faucets, not use the restroom, and not shower for school the next day. I called the technician, I called the answering service, and I was told that the technician was done for the day and he would get to my home first thing in the morning, on Tuesday morning, because the 15th was a holiday. Again, I don't want to misquote, so please forgive me. I explained again to the answering service that I had small children that would need to use the restroom throughout the evening and asked what I was supposed to do. The lady placed me on hold and said that she was going to talk to the technician. When she returned to the phone call, she stated the technician was unwilling to work in such cold weather, and he had suggested that I take my children to the loaf and jug to use the restroom throughout the evening if they needed to go to the bathroom. I said, for clarity's sake, are you telling me that I'm supposed to take 2 small children out in below zero temperatures to go to the restroom at midnight when an adult man cannot operate a heater and defrost the meter at my home? And she said, yes, ma'am, that's what I'm telling you. I said, that is a safety concern. I asked if I could at the very least get a specific time that the technician would be there the next morning on Tuesday, as I would need to take the day off work to make sure he had access to my home should he need it. Didn't want to go without any additional water. She placed me on hold again and spoke with the technician. When she returned, she stated that he said he would get to me as soon as possible in the morning, but could not give me an exact time. I explained that I needed to take my children to school in town, and it was really important that I have a specific appointment time. She placed me on hold again. When she returned, she stated that the technician had told her to tell me that I was harassing him, and that if I did not stop, he would have her call the police, and that it would get to me the next afternoon, not the next morning. At that point, the answering service hung up on me, saying they could not help me. Here's the thing. I'm a widow with 2 small children. I'm it. I'm the only person that my kids have. And yet, when I asked Wardwell Water to help me, they said no. This is not a customer service issue, as I'm sure you've heard about with Wardwell. This is a safety for my children. I have been a loyal customer to them for 5 years. I moved into my home on June 22nd, 2015. I have paid my bill on time, with the exception of the month that my husband died, with which I was planning his funeral, not worried about paying them. I can produce all of the checks to verify that. And yet, when a loyal customer had a problem and wanted her children to have water, She was told, no, it's too cold for an adult male to work outside, but please take 2 small children outside to use the restroom. Something else interesting is I observed that technician the next morning out of my alleyway. Whatever he was doing, even though it was still below 0 weather, was warm enough that it caused him to shed his outer layer jacket. He couldn't do that the night before. So commissioners, please tell me why you have not addressed the petition from the town of Bar None to allow us to stop using Wardwell.
Mr. Nelson?
So, Mr. Chairman, point of clarification, so it was not a petition from Bar None. It was from various residents from Bar None and elsewhere. After in-depth legal review, we do not feel that the commission has jurisdiction to entertain that petition. It's really out of our hands. I believe that, in my opinion, without going into the weeds on this, that it takes a legislative fix, and that there is not, in fact, a path forward through that petition process in front of the county commissioners to address it. So that is, at this point, why there hasn't been any action, because it is our opinion in legal here that we do not have statutory authority to address it.
My research indicated the opposite, that we needed to come to you guys because there was an issue before the legislature in which they stated that it was the county commissioners, they wanted to take it away from the counties and put it with the legislature. That was the understanding that I received this year when I was one of those that signed that petition.
Mr. Nelson?
Mr. Chairman, it's not an easy issue. It's very convoluted. There are 2 separate titles within Wyoming statute that address water and sewer districts, such as Wardwell. I believe it's Title 41. Water and sewer districts are a type of special district under Title 24. There is a process within Title 24 that addresses the dissolution of special districts in general, and special districts are much broader than water and sewer districts and include improvement service districts, cemetery districts, hospital districts, and the like. That process only applies unless it is in direct conflict or is somehow superseded by the provisions of what it calls the Organic Act, which in this case would be Title, I believe, 41. And within the water and sewer district, there are a number of provisions in which I don't have before me and don't have it committed to memory, which after, again, extensive review with my deputy, we believe that there is a conflict with Title 24 and that the process delineated within that title does not allow the county commission to entertain a petition and to dissolve a water and sewer district. There was a presentation apparently at a joint legislative committee meeting back in 2015 where there was some indication by the Attorney General's office that this was the process. However, there's no, to my knowledge, we certainly haven't received an opinion here in Natrona County from the Attorney General that that's the appropriate process, nor is there any case law, to my knowledge, that would indicate that that is the process. And so, thus, the jurisdiction being, in our opinion, non-existent, there's been no action on the petition. Certainly, very, having twins myself, young twins, I certainly am very sympathetic, and that's very tough, and I can't imagine as a single mother that would be very difficult to deal with, and so I do sympathize. And so, Mr. Chairman, this is, of course, not anything that's, neither weighing one side or the other, whether it should be or should not be dissolved, and we just don't feel that we at the county have the statutory authority to entertain that.
Okay. Commissioner Andrew?
Have you or your neighbors gone to the Wardwell board meetings? They have a board.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. They quite honestly ignore us. And more than once, they've locked the door. They locked the door on me when I came to the meeting after this happened. So there was not much I could do.
And that was the board meeting, not,
Yes. Yeah, it's I believe it's once a month. Yeah. And so I went in. I tried to go in. It's supposed to be a public hearing, and they didn't allow me in. So this is a safety concern for my children. Would any of you prefer your children not to have water? No, I can assure you nobody here wants that. Granted, people do live off the grid, but I'm not one of those. And so I can understand, but I guess that my next question would be then, what can I do? How can you as county commissioners that I voted in help me? Is there anything? Or do I just come up here and waste my breath and say, hey, there's kids that are at risk or that are having safety concerns within our county, but our hands are tied, so too bad. Is that what I'm hearing? Or should I move? I would really like some insight because I'm very frustrated. And again, it's not a customer service issue. These are children within our county. I can go without water, I don't care, but my kids cannot.
So Mayor Ford knows my position. I fully support bar none taking over and operating their own utilities within the municipal boundary. The challenge is how do we get, and I've even worked with some of the Wardwell board members. The challenge is how do we legally do this within the statutes, and that's part of the problem. So Mayor Ford, Representative Sweeney, some members of the city of Casper, we're all trying to come up with a solution for this. Nothing's going to happen very quickly unless we can sit down and all take a step back and realize exactly what you're saying, is that it's not our turf, it's about the people we serve.
Absolutely.
And that's the challenge we have to get through. You're in a large course of people that are complaining very loudly about what's happening in bar none. And it's also in the unincorporated areas. There's a tremendous frustration with Wardwell. We're trying to address that. Unfortunately, as county commissioners under a water and sewer district, I liken a water and sewer district as a municipality without a town hall. Mm-hmm. Because under a water and sewer district, they are granted so many powers more than a simple improvement district. And they were originally designed to be in large unincorporated areas that they were never expected to have enough density to be able to incorporate and have towns. So when bar none first started, it was just an itty bitty spot, and it was a very sprawling unincorporated area. It made sense to have a water and sewer district. They get so much more power and ability to do things to be more efficient, if you want to call it that. But now that has kind of changed. I mean, bar none, you have a town that's more than capable of providing all those services. It is all kind of grown in. And I speak only from my opinion. The day of Wardwell Water and Sewer is probably past for the purposes that it was created. So how do we move forward and get the services back to the people? And I think in talking with some of the Wardwell people, they're a little hesitant about it, but I know that I'm committed. Patrick Ford, Mayor Ford's committed. Pat's Representative Sweeney. We are going to have some meetings on this and try and at least push this along to where if we can't get it done in a gentlemanly process without going to court or having to go through the legislative process, that would be my goal. Because otherwise, this is just going to drag on. The earliest we could probably get anything through the legislature would be March of next year.
Right.
And so we're working on it. I know it's not what you really want to hear, but I just want you to know that your concerns are not falling on deaf ears. That at least I'm trying to work with Representative Sweeney. I've had numerous meetings with him, Mayor Ford, and again, a couple of representatives from the Wardwell Board about this, and have expressed my opinion and concerns that things have to change. So I'm working on it, and I'll do my best. That's all I can tell you at this point.
Can I ask you, other commissioners, do you also support this, or am I fighting an uphill battle and only have one of the county commissioners that sees the safety issue for my children? And if you feel uncomfortable answering, I know that I'm putting you on the spot, but I would appreciate an answer nonetheless.
I would just tell you, part of mine is because I have been so intimate with waters out in through regional water and stuff. I've been doing this for over 2 decades, so I'm very familiar with how the water systems work. so.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Henry.
I would just say that their bedside manner, so to speak, is terrible up there in Wardwell. Their customer service is terrible, and I think they really need to fix it, or they won't be there much longer.
Thank you. And I will say that I have not had that negative experience with customer service until this issue. When it became my
Well,
children.
you're not the only one. We've heard
That's-
from a lot of them.
That's when it became an issue for me. That is 100% when it became an issue, was when my children were involved. I quite honestly didn't do any research or care about it. I just signed the petition because it makes sense to me to not have to pay multiple bills. But then they got my children involved. So that's when I really got involved. And you, sir?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Mill?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, no, we see that safety issue on the side, right? And we do sympathize and hear your concerns. And there's only one of us that's sitting on the regional water, though. But I do have
Right.
full confidence that he will work on it, like he just told you.
Okay.
My concerns are the people that not in the incorporated area of Bar None itself. We need to make sure whatever happens, those people have to be taken care of as well.
Absolutely.
So,
I
but
absolutely
yeah, no, something's going to have to give eventually,
Okay.
and it hopefully sooner than later.
Okay. So it sounds to me your advice would be the next step was to speak with Representative Sweeney. Is that correct?
We're going to talk with them.
Okay.
In fact, we have a meeting tomorrow afternoon, so.
Wonderful. Well, thank you.
But,
That is,
and your mayor
Yes,
is.
he has been
is-
very helpful.
is been a bulldog on it, so
yes, many
it's
people.
it's hard to believe that, but he is.
When I did post this on Facebook when it happened, and many people in Bar None offered me and my children the use of their bathrooms and their water and whatnot, because quite honestly, I had not thought to stock water in my home. That's that single mom thing. Hadn't really thought about it. So he was one of them. They were very kind. But thank you for your time,
Okay.
commissioners.
Thank you.
Peter Boyer, B-O-Y-E-R. Who's recording, her? 2116 Omaha Trail, Bar None.
That's Michelle, that's our secretary.
Okay, well, just for whoever was recording my address. I'm obviously from Bar None, and I'm here about the same issue. I'm the one that brought all the people to the last meeting, and I also share the same sentiment that I wish this was our biggest issue. I really do, and I do appreciate that you, as commissioners, are aware and taking action to protect our rights. I never thought I'd see these days in my time, and I'm only 40 years old. So, I know that you feel that there's no legal precedence to move forward on this, and I would disagree. You're the county commissioners, and they are under your jurisdiction, just as our town is under your jurisdiction. And I'm not saying make some legal precedents or, go break some legs or anything crazy, but they are under your jurisdiction. Wardwell is under your jurisdiction, just as we are, just as Casper is. And I have knocked, for this petition, I knocked hundreds of doors myself. And I talked to hundreds of people. And there were dozens of stories just like Shannon's. I am a representative of my people. I am a council member. I cannot stand by and watch this injustice happen. I don't hate Wardwell. I love my people. And they're your people. Yes, we could wait until March. Yes, we could wait until there's some legal precedence, and we could argue over the legalities of it. We really could. Or we could do what's right. And we can be brave. And take that scary path that sometimes maybe we don't know is so sure, but we know is right. And that's what I'm asking you. I'm asking you on behalf of my citizens. Take a step and take a chance on us. And give us control of our future. Allow us the opportunity to grow our town. Allow us the opportunity to be in control of our water. Water is life in the West. You know the stories. You know what Wardwell is all about. And I'm not saying they're evil, but I believe it was you, Commissioner Hendry, that even said their time is pretty much done. I'm not sure which one of you said it, but their time is done. Everybody knows it. Let's just do it. Let's just do the right thing. And for once, put trust and faith back in our government. Because a lot of people, myself included, don't have much faith left. That's all I got. And I thank you for your time. And God bless this great country.
Thank you, Mr. Boyer. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Commissioners, Robert Hoover, 2340 Sunset Boulevard, Bar None. I just want to go through and just make one quick statement, because there isn't any sense in rehashing, the couple of things that have already come up already this evening, or the things that have come up in the past. My only concern is this. The longer we go through and we wait on this, and we don't do anything, or we have meetings, we have discussions, we have phone calls, we have emails, every time we sit down and we try to do something with Wardwell Water, there is always a retaliation. And it's not against you, the commissioners, or the people of Wardwell Water, or the other community members of Natrona County. It's Bar None that goes through and gets those repercussions. So I just want it to be known that I realize that things need to be done in a diligent and due manner, in a legal fashion. But please keep in mind in your discussions and your feelings and your thoughts and everything else like that, that you gentlemen sitting behind those desks are not the ones that have to deal with the repercussions of Wardwell Water itself. It is myself, and it is every community member of the town of Bar None. So I'd just like to leave that with you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Hoover?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to discuss anything with Wardwell? Good evening, Honorable Mayor Ford.
I would use that term loosely.
I was.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Patrick Ford. I'm the mayor of Bar None, and I reside at 5306 Ute Circle in Bar None. I come before you this evening to show support of everybody that not only showed up at the last meeting, which we did not anticipate to be quite that lengthy, and the folks that took time out of their schedule to show up this evening to talk. I think it goes without saying that I know you've all heard from folks at length, probably ad nauseum. I know I have, so I'm glad that that stuff is rolling uphill. So we don't need to, I suppose, rehash any of the customer service issues. I've personally, I know some people have tried to accuse me of having a vendetta against Wardwell Water. I've never personally had a problem with them. And until we started this process about 2 years ago, having discussions about how we could break off from them and have control of our own water system and growth and tap fees and water rates and getting rid of property taxes to a defunct water system that we don't see benefit out of. That's when the retaliation started. Mr. Hoover is also our fire chief. They've accused us of running water lines dry, doing pump tests on fire trucks, threatening the DEQ on us. They have shut our water off for landscaping, watering, stating that we broke into their water meter pit and ruined a water meter and charged us trespass fees shortly after they discovered that we were having these discussions. That was May of last year. And when we said we did not trespass, they said, well, we don't have to prove it. You have to pay the $50 or we'll shut your water off. It's things like that that we know that this is we have to move forward. It is not an option to just kind of flounder. It's the reason that it's taken 2 years to get to this point. Commissioner Milne mentioned that there was concern of the residents in the unincorporated area. If the district were dissolved, they would see a benefit in a reduction of property taxes because the town would not be levying property taxes to the tune of 8 mills against them. As we've researched water rates, we believe that we can keep the water rates flat for them where they're at currently, and they will see a tax savings, and that our staff would be able to supply them with service, which I know it will come as a shock, but I'm sure the service couldn't possibly get any worse. Leaving water rates flat and a reduction of property taxes would be nothing but benefit to everybody in the unincorporated area. So I have no doubts about our ability to service that. There was a mention of a 2015 presentation from the Attorney General's office as it relates to treating improvement districts and regular districts much the same as it relates to the dissolution process. I think it is worth noting that legal opinions, until they're tested, are just that. And I think it serves that it would be worth testing this legal opinion. Our attorney's legal opinion is that we should be able to treat both of those one and the same because it is clear that there is gray area in the statute that we have tried to fix, and lobbyists have put enough artificial pressure on the statutory process of passing legislation to give them the perception that there's too much opposition and it is too complex and convoluted a process to solve this legislative session. So we've kicked the can down the road to the next legislative session. We've tried as a town to get a legal opinion from the Attorney General's office, and as best I can tell and understand, the Attorney General's office, and I don't know if it's a staffing issue or if it is the sheer number of requests that they used to be fielding from municipalities throughout the state, but they have been instructed, as my understanding, to only provide legal opinions to county entities throughout the state. So our request to you guys at the county, if we are basing it on a 2015 opinion, is to get a fresh legal opinion on that. I don't know if that's been done. We've attempted to get some kind of response from the county via the legal channels. I know that we've had multiple meetings, but from the legal back channels, we have not had any sort of update at all as to what the status of this petition is.
Okay.
So we've tried to follow the petition process based on legal opinion that we believe exists and is firmly rooted in treating applying logic to the state statutes that already exist, instead of having to fix state statutes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Mayor Ford, just to add a little clarity. So the Attorney General by statute represents the statewide elected officials and as well as county attorneys. And so in a previous life, I was the city attorney for Douglas, and I was not able to avail myself of the Attorney General to obtain an opinion. And so their position has always been that statute does not allow them to render advice to municipalities. So I think that's probably what you're running into. We did, candidly, we have kicked around internally here whether or not to request an opinion from the AG. Like I said, my deputy and I have gone kind of round and round. Frankly, his opinion was because we didn't have jurisdiction, there was no further action taken. I'd asked him to put together a letter subsequent to at least apprise Mr. Holscher of kind of where we stand. That being said, and we understand, and I think the commissioners do too, that there is an issue here and there is some ambiguity in the statute. Of course, if we did proceed on the assumption that we had jurisdiction, I think that very likely we would all find ourselves in court, probably up to the Supreme Court, which could delay us out 18 to 24 months. That being said, you know, I certainly would welcome the opportunity if you also chose to seek an opinion from the district court, because from my perspective as a county attorney, I don't have a dog in the fight one way or the other, but what I do care about, and I think the commissioners care about, is making sure that we follow the law and follow the process. And so if there is a thought that a declaratory judgment from a court of competent jurisdiction to say definitively, yes, there is this petition, you know, recourse to a petition process, then fine, we would honor that and move it forward. If the opinion came out conversely that there wasn't, then we know that there needs to be a legislative fix. And so, just to be clear, I don't, you know, we have spent, I know I've spent, and my deputy has spent quite a bit of time looking at this. They're very convoluted, as you mentioned. There's lots of gray area, and so it's not been an easy issue to divine, but we know there's an issue there, and so certainly, you know, we're open to further dialogue.
So, Mr. Nelson, so can we ask for an Attorney General opinion, whether or not we have jurisdiction? I guess it's not a question of whether or not the petition's valid, it's whether or not we even have jurisdiction.
That's correct. I as the county attorney, have the ability to request that opinion.
Okay.
But to Mayor Ford's point, an opinion is an opinion, and so the courts will afford the Attorney General's opinion a little more deference, but ultimately, hypothetically, if they came back and said we did have jurisdiction and Wardwell disagreed, we'd likely find ourselves in district court at any rate. So you know, this is my job, and so however we choose to proceed, we'll proceed that way. But at the same time, and I think you guys pointed this out, doing what's right for the citizens and trying to get this resolved as expeditiously as possible, I think that it makes sense to continue to have those conversations. But if we need to move concurrently through the legal system, happy to do so.
Okay. Mayor Ford?
Mr. Commissioner and fellow commissioners, I would prefer us to move forward with getting a legal opinion so that we at least have that clarity from the AG's office if we can. I know that likely ends up being contested, and the war chest of Wardwell, they will burn through all of their reserves if they have to try to fight that thing tooth and nail via legal fees. Of that, I don't have any doubt. But I've received emails and phone calls from people in the unincorporated area, and I have specifically told people, you're welcome to go to one of their board meetings. don't hold your breath on getting any resolution, because as best I can tell from everybody that's ever gone to their board meetings, their board allows the staff to tell them how things run, as opposed to the other way around. I know in the town of Bar None, our council runs that town. And we've had staff in the past try to challenge that, and it doesn't work out well. Wardwell is the exact opposite of that. So I would prefer a legal opinion from the AG's office if we can get it, as while we work in parallel trying to get statute resolved. I'm not holding my breath on statute being resolved, because it has been thrown out there that the wagons will be circled and opposition will come in force against any bill at all that has anything to do with trying to dissolve a water district.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Henry.
I've got a question, I guess, for Mayor Ford, and that is that in hearing this, it seems to me like the town of Mills may, or the town of Bar None, may have a lawsuit type action against Wardwell. Has anybody explored that?
Mr. Hendry, I appreciate the question. What I can tell you is we have tried to put the good foot forward. We've tried to logically step through this in a progression. Just much like in private business, you don't like when somebody goes around your boss to their boss. You like to work through the chain of command. We've tried to logically step through this process. We've sat down with Wardwell a couple of times trying to discuss how this could be hashed out in a very civil manner, not civil court. And their reaction was laughter, and I wish I was kidding. Their only suggestion was get out your checkbook and you can write a check for all of the public infrastructure and buy it from Wardwell Water District. So with that, we knew that the option for trying to come up with a agreeable split was not going to happen. So we knew that we had to explore statutes. We discovered that there was this dissolution process statute, which our attorney's legal opinion was that after researching it, finding that 2015 information from the Attorney General's office, that districts and improvement districts logically should be treated one and the same as far as the dissolution process.
So I guess a question then, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Nelson would be, where there's a fine line between what we've heard tonight and I mean, a lawsuit might just do the trick, or at least be an avenue they could pick.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Hendry, no, I don't disagree. I mean, so not surprisingly, you get two attorneys read the same thing and come up with slightly different conclusions. And, you know, I agree. I mean, it's not clear cut. And there are judicial avenues through the courts for these very types of disagreements. And it's called a declaratory judgment. And assuming, you know, jurisdiction and standing exists, you know, you could ask a district court to opine, might ultimately go to the Supreme Court, but opine whether or not, you know, there is access to this process. And if they say there is, then so be it. And then we'll proceed forward pursuant to statute. But, you know, the way we read it, there's enough ambiguity when you read the two together that we felt that there wasn't jurisdiction. So,
Mr. Chairman, then another question. When does a water and sewer district, they're a special district, but they're also providing a utility and a service. So isn't there something in there that they have to provide a service? I mean, they're getting paid for it?
yeah, I wish I had committed Title 41 to memory, but so it's a relatively in-depth statute. They do have certain powers, and again, in that title, to the extent that those provisions are in conflict with the general statute on special districts, those apply. And so, they have a reason for existing. I think when you're talking about to what level they provide things, then you start talking about what arguably is maybe a policy decision. But it really, it's getting to a level of detail that I'm just not prepared tonight to really definitively answer. But there are specific statutes that govern there.
So, Mr. Chairman, then who would, if we got the district court involved, who starts that process? Is that bar none? It looks like they're the aggrieved party.
So Commissioner Hendry, I would not want to try to play attorney for bar none. I know Mr. Holscher has represented the individuals who submitted the petition and I believe represents bar none as well. And so I, would certainly leave it to him on how that might go. I mean, I'm certainly happy to reach out to him and, to the extent that you could have a friendly judicial action, I think that's what we would have. I mean, whatever the court says the process is. Again, I personally have no bias one way or the other. We just want to get it right, so.
So would we need to have a AG's opinion whether or not we have whatever the term is?
Jurisdiction.
Jurisdiction.
Well, the AG's opinion is really a step short, Mr. Chairman, of going to the district court. I mean, it would give us something from the Attorney General that would say one way or the other, and we could, I think, continue to rely on that, just as you can rely on the advice I give. Ultimately, district court and Supreme Court could help that they disagree with the AG's opinion. So there's a number of avenues we can.
I guess what I was getting at is if we had jurisdiction and said we are going to rule or go down the path that the petition process is valid, then Wardwell would have an opportunity to go to district court and ask for a judgment. And I guess it depends on which direction you're coming from, but it seems like every direction's headed to that.
Mr. Chairman, so that's correct. So, not to speculate too much, but I don't see a situation where we don't end up in court in some form or fashion. How we get there may differ depending on the actions taken up front, but I think ultimately that's, absent some kind of negotiated resolution to this, I think that's where we end up.
Mr. Chairman, I think we ought to have that legal opinion. I'm glad I go get it.
Okay. We'll start down and up from our direction.
Okay. Certainly
Chairman.
appreciate it, I think.
Commissioner Milne, real quick.
Mr. Nelson, so basically what I'm hearing from you is regardless of what that opinion is from the AG, more than likely, it probably won't change the tone of this conversation one way or the other from what you're seeing?
I can't, Commissioner Milne. So from a strictly legal perspective, so let's hypothetically, if the AG comes back and says you're correct, there's no jurisdiction, then I think it's reasonable to draw the conclusion that the individuals who signed on to the petition might wish to contest that in court. On the flip side, if they come back and say, yeah, you do have jurisdiction, I think it's reasonable to think that Wardwell might seek judicial redress to say that, no, that's incorrect. So there's various paths, but absent some type of resolution, I guess, that's negotiated between the parties, I think there's a strong likelihood we end up in district court. But again, from my perspective as the county attorney, I'm okay with that because that just gives us clarity. So.
Right, so basically though, regardless of which direction it goes, it isn't going to hurt us at all to have that AG opinion, and it's actually a step in the right direction to begin with.
Commissioner Mann, I don't disagree with that. There's no downside to it.
Well, and it might, Mr. Chairman, too, it sends a signal that it's serious, that Wardwell, we're asking for an opinion. Depending on that opinion, then we may get into it or may not be able to, but you're moving forward and questioning. I think it's good.
Okay. Mayor, any other thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, appreciate your time. Mr. Nelson, appreciate you guys addressing this this evening. I just, for clarity and the record's sake and the folks that, I don't know how many folks are still sitting back there behind me, but anybody that doesn't know, as the official petition process that we were following, our goal was to just have a special election held. And under that statute, we were trying to petition you, the commission, to allow a special election to move forward for the users of the district, and that would be the unincorporated portion as well as Barnon. Everybody would have an actual vote and a say of whether or not they want to continue dealing with this situation. We didn't want you guys to be put in the bad situation of unilaterally having to decide yay or nay and be the bad guys. I'd be very comfortable letting the voters be the bad guys in this situation. And I would, if betting were legal in Wyoming, I would be happy to wager money on it.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
See you tomorrow.
Off to my next meeting, I suppose.
Anyone else want to address anything as it relates to Wardwell before Tracy gets up? Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you all. Mr. Lamont.
Thank you, Mr. Bottolio. First and foremost, I'd like to apologize to the people from Bar None that got caught in the 2.5-hour melee last meeting. So
And that's why they got to go ahead of you tonight.
that was outstanding. And I want to tell you that how impressed and very impressive it was, you guys' engagement here, all four of you, in the transparency and the open discussion, because it's obvious you hadn't talked about it before on it. So I hope the people from Bar None are leaving with a good feeling. I want to bring up a couple handouts to you up here to pass.
This wouldn't be about Jackson Canyon Road, would it? Is this some new stuff?
No, this is just a refresher. And my opening remark here, Tracy Lamont, 9855 Crimson Dawn Road. But Eric, I want to thank you for putting up with me on it. And I really appreciate the response back to you and the invite to come and see. I just haven't had time to get there. This whole thing started out on fair and consistency, and I'm glad it's taken the course that it has. But on the first handout, the multi-page one, on paragraphs 2 and 3, I'm going to put Eric on the spot here on it. I asked for instrument numbers. I really don't need the instrument numbers. I just need to know if the easements exist for the two plots that are in the control of Elizabeth Nelson, who's the trustee for Judy Reed, on lots 3 and lots 5 on it. And then the third one is for the parcel that's marked unplatted on the Mountain Acre subdivision proposed plat. It's the triangular plot, or the triangular plat. And it's owned by Thad and Mickey White Revocable Trust on them. But I've highlighted in green, coming off of, on this Reed major subdivision plat, that it takes off from what's called K2 Road. And if you look at the Reed simple subdivision plat, that separate one I handed out to you, that's marked Jackson Canyon Road. That's what it was known before it was relabeled as K2 Road. But where I have that highlighted in green on the Reed major subdivision plat, and also on the plat for Mountain Acre subdivision, if those easements don't exist, then there is no bona fide access across Judy Reed's parcels or Elizabeth Nelson, and across the White's property to pick up the southeast corner of Mountain Acre subdivision I know that sounds confusing. But do those easements exist, Eric? Have they provided them to you? They being Tearaway or Camille Lehman or their counsel?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Tracy, I have to apologize. So trying to kind of orient myself very quickly here, I just don't know. I mean, as I've briefed the commissioners, I have worked with Trish, and I have pulled lots of documents, and we're in the process of going back through some historical records. But having to shift from water and sewer districts to mountain roads here quickly, I'm just
I can appreciate that.
not sure. But I can certainly take a closer look at this and get you an answer to that question.
So the reason I ask, I mean, if those easements don't exist, then, there's no way that he can enter into the southeast corner of his subdivision. And it looks to me like he's added either a 50 or 60-foot right-of-way through the corner of that wasn't in the original plat shown to the Planning Commission. But I'm assuming that's what the implications are on this Mountain Acre subdivision plat I have stapled to the letter or to my email. But I strongly question if those easements even exist on it. And before any consideration is given to that, those three parcels, they need to be cleared up. And then the single handout I passed you, I highlighted, it shows Jackson Canyon Road there, and it became K2 Road later when WLC went in and redid the major subdivision plat for the Reed major subdivision plat. Hopefully that makes more sense now. And then the green highlight coming down to the straight south, that's the easements in question. There's one small corner, lots 3 and 5 come together there when it heads across the triangular plat on it. So, my only dog in the fight here is I'm looking at 4 pretty good friends, actually 5, 6, and the city, or the county planner is another. And I have another thing I copied here, right in the major subdivision packet application. Under condition D, it says the review shall outline whether the proposed subdivision generally complies with the policies and requirements of the adopted Natrona County Development Plan, subdivision regulations, zoning resolutions, and the Casper Mountain Land Use Plan, if applicable. And, the policies for subdivision roads are clearly stated in the Casper Mountain Land Use Plan. Thus, the proposed private road in the Mountain Acre subdivision falls way short of even coming close to meeting the policy requirements of the Casper Mountain Land Use Plan. And Casper Mountain area subdivision roads being required to be dedicated for public use. So I think where I'm coming from, we got to be fair and consistent. That's all it's about. And I have no problem with realigning and going to the public road across there. And the other thing I found is you don't need to have 60-foot wide roadways up there. They allow in the county zoning ordinance on Casper Mountain 50-foot wide right-of-ways. So there was quite a bit of contradiction involved there. But, I've learned more about Jackson Canyon Road, and I know you guys have too, than I never even knew it existed on them. But the problem, there's a problem right behind it, and you've picked up on that from my correspondence. There's another segment of that locks out a tremendous amount of state and BLM property out on the west end. And I just discovered another document today. It was shared with me. I didn't discover it. I've had a lot of help. But it appears that Micro Road, where it ends, up by the AT&T tower, that Jackson Canyon Road takes off and cuts a little bit to the north and goes, it looks like the fence around the AT&T tower sitting on the Jackson Canyon Road right-of-way on it, but then it goes on out and up, on past that. So this one's just the tip of the iceberg on it. And, you know, that's a bad deal, locking out all that stuff to the west end from the top. It really is. So, you know, I've got no malice or no axe to grind with the subdivision. I think it'd be an asset up there, but not being a public road is not a good deal. And you guys recognize that by tabling it. So I'll get down to visit with you, Eric, and we'll hash this out. And, you know, this won't be the last issue. The other thing that came to head during the hearing at the last meeting was the issues past K2 Road on it. And Mrs. Banhorn was here. She got up and spoke, I think, twice that night. But I think they're willing to work with people. She thinks there's easements across there, but I've spent 2 different occasions in the records room downstairs, and I can't find any. Yeah. So, you know, it's a can of worms, and I just want to personally thank you for putting up with me, for calling this stuff to your attention. It's to me, it's got to be right.
Well, I can speak for my fellow commissioners. Thank you for all the information you've given us. It's been a very good walk through history as it relates to what's going on in the mountain. Mr. Nelson is finding some very interesting things as it relates to how and when and why not. Some things don't appear to have easements, and we're working it. This is just, as you say, kind of a tip of the iceberg, and as we move forward, we want to make sure we get this one right, because undoubtedly there's going to be some coming in behind this where we're going to deal with the same issues.
Exactly, and you guys' posture has been excellent on this, and I think Eric steered you here the appropriate way too as well. Andrew Snyder sitting back here next to me, he's the one that dug all this stuff out, so I want to thank him for, you know, finding a lot about the history of the mountain. It's been very educational. But a quick question on as a matter of the public hearing, you know, you tabled what was going on, but will they reopen the public hearing? What is the procedure, Eric, at the next meeting? Or will you just go into a approval or disapproval?
So, Mr. Chairman, I would anticipate if the commission takes it off the table, you know, we have, I can share that the developer has met again with Casper Mountain Fire. There's been additional discussions. They're awaiting opinion on the status of the road so that they can make modifications to the proposal. So it seems to me, I mean, we'll have to reconvene and figure out if the changes are substantial enough. It may be my recommendation that go back to planning and zoning. If they're not quite that substantial, then it's most likely we'd open the public hearing back up. But I'm cognizant of the calendar. I'm watching the days tick by, but we're going to try to be ready come May 4th.
And one final question, who has the Natrona County Book of Roads? Who maintains that? The Road and Bridge Department? Or the road records?
I've never seen such a thing, so if you find it, let me know.
You know, there's another thing in the learning curve. So, you know, when this survey surfaced, this one right here, on it, it says road record right on it. But well, I guess time will tell here on it. But yeah, I sure did. Okay, you've got all of these, and if you need anything else, don't hesitate to drop me a line on it. I can get them to you, but I'm out of bullets, so you won't be getting any more emails from me unless I find
There
something.
can't be too many left.
Was that on record?
So, you know, Mr. Lehman does have access via Jackson Canyon Road if they chose to go that direction on it. And then if there's other people have given him the right-of-way across the corner of his parcel, you know, then they need to give it to the county as well so we can continue the process on him. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Henry.
Didn't in 38 or 34, the county gave permission to put an electric easement in there to K2 Tower?
No, that was in 72.
Oh, well, in
On himself.
72 then.
That, and I have to apologize too, is John Bryson, who's the engineer working with Camille. He's been digging too, so we've had a good jousting going back and forth in good faith. He found all 3 pages of the survey today, and it's in 1935, not 1933, is what I was led to believe to start with. So, and it was interesting to learn about the WPA and the CCC and their involvement. I knew they had played a part on the main road up the mountain, but I didn't realize they were involved in all the rest of this too. So thanks for the time again, Paul.
You bet. Anyone else wishing to? Good evening.
Good evening. Andrew Schneider, 8711 Everett Lane. This is a palate cleanser, so we're off of Jackson Canyon Road for the evening. I'm just following up on an email that I sent you all, and wanted to bring it again to your attention here. First of all, I wrote in appreciation for the work that you all do, and I think tonight you've done an upstanding job of engaging with folks. And also wanted to express my appreciation for the wonderful use of technology that makes these meetings accessible to the public. And I know there are a lot of folks watching. First, I'm especially impressed with the Agenda Center on the county website. I got curious, so I looked at websites of all of Wyoming's other counties, and I would say that our county stands out as the most user-friendly design for accessing our meeting agendas, the minutes, and then the videos afterwards. And noted that Laramie County's website actually boasts that they were the first to offer such an agenda center, but I think that Natrona County's is far superior. And second, I wanted to applaud the county's use of YouTube and other technologies to broadcast your meetings, both including these commission meetings, the planning and zoning meetings, and the park meetings. I've seen time and time again that the community gets involved because they're able to access those in real time and then afterwards. Wanted to share some statistics that I pulled up with you. Prior to this meeting, your 2021 meeting videos have already had over 1,030 views, with 2 individual meetings receiving over 200 views each. And so for a county with only about 4,082 families as of the 2010 census who live outside of Casper City, which of course has their own meetings, and the other incorporated towns, I would say that you have really great engagement numbers. And looking at some other states, I would say that's true as well. By comparison, Albany County has just under 500 views this year, closer to home. The city of Casper has 14,273 families as of the 2010 census. So it's three and a half times more families or households than out here in the county, and yet their council and their videos have just 2,808 views, only 2.8 times the number of views. So I know that's kind of an eggy number, but when you get into data science, that's actually a pretty significant delta. So the fact that the county has embraced this technology and the opportunity to engage with residents online, I think says a lot about the county's dedication to continuous improvement, embracing these new technologies, and that you all wake up every day and try and serve the people better and with more transparency today than you did yesterday. In that spirit, I offer 2 more observations that the county could incorporate to further extend its public engagement reach online. First, I found it noteworthy and applaudable that the city of Casper streams and posts their work sessions. Albany County does this as well, and I think there are a couple other counties as well. By comparison, Natrona County offers no videos of their work sessions, and in fact charges residents $10 if they want to access an audio recording of the meeting, which is available via burned CD, a technology that is not even available in most computers these days. So as somebody who has already purchased 2 audio recordings of those CDs this year because of meetings I wasn't able to attend in person, I can speak from experience that this is a hassle for your office administrator, Michelle. And Michelle, since you're here, I really genuinely appreciate you taking the time out of what I know is a busy day to get those burned and done for me. In case you don't know what that process involves, Michelle actually has to stop what she's doing and physically reboot her computer in order to engage the CD burner and then wait patiently while the disk is made. It's a little nutty in this day and age of high technology that's still going on to me. So using the existing technology and the workflow that you already have in place to stream and post video of these meetings, posting the video of the work sessions, I think would be a savings of your staff time and would free Michelle up to handle more important matters. Even posting the audio recordings, which are being made of those meetings, to the website Agenda Center could be an option that might save you a little staff time, although somebody would have to figure out that as a new workflow. Second, and the last observation, I found it remarkable that the City of Casper's work session videos this year have received 2,408 views, while their regular meetings have received only 1,440 views. So 2408 to 1440. This shows that residents strongly value these work session videos almost 2 to 1. And I believe that you would see similar engagement numbers from a grateful public if the county began streaming and posting videos of your commission work sessions. So with that, thank you for all you do around here. I hope you'll consider these observations and direct the staff to begin streaming and posting your work sessions.
All right, thank you. I would just tell you that there's a distinct difference between meeting rooms as part of the reason why there's a challenge. The city council chambers have been set up and have much more ease in setting up that. And then, of course, council chambers, because of the franchise agreement they have audio, video galore set up in the back room. I agree with you. I would love to see us be able to take this courtroom and make it actually look like a meeting room where we could do it. And I think we'll discuss that here in the future. So
I appreciate that. I actually got to go tour those facilities yesterday, working with Casper One TV through the bid process to provide television services. So we were looking at the technical capacities to switch between those live meetings. The city does, you're correct, have a separate meeting room for their work sessions, and there is a single camera in that room as well as 3 microphones suspended from the ceiling. So those technical pieces, I think, are in there. Where I think a good distinction is drawn, and I only know this because I went through the facility yesterday, that PEG channel with Charter, none of that technology comes into what is being broadcast to YouTube. So even though the cameras are the same, it gets split out, and there are 2 separate streams being broadcast, one to channel 192, and the other goes through the box that you have over here or wherever it is in the building to go down. So I would propose using that and setting up whatever camera and microphones you need to make those meetings accessible.
all right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Mill.
really appreciate your comments, but those need to go to Elaine Hill and her IT team. They really did quite the work with us. So the kudos need to go to them.
Yes, and I'll make an effort to extend that out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once, going twice, gone. Commissioner's comments. Commissioner Mill. Commissioner Hendry.
I really don't have any.
I'm sure I have something, but it's past my bedtime, so with that, we will adjourn. So what did you need?